What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. How is everybody doing? You know what it's like at the moment, and I can already see, like, my first question was going to be, how is everybody feeling? 24 hours removed, or just under 24 hours removed. How is everybody feeling after last night? Are people having sort of different thoughts? Are people having different perceptions on what happened? And I always think as well, like, when we do like stream straight after the game, we do match views and stuff like that. It's always good to reflect after 24 hours. And from what I can see is, like, a lot of people's opinions really haven't changed that much. We're going to talk about last night. It's kind of frustrating to not frustrating to talk about it again. I think it's good to talk about it again. And I think that 24 hours can provide a bit of clarity. My opinions really haven't changed that much from last night, it must be said, but I've done a lot of thinking about it. I've talked to a lot of friends, I've talked to people that have different viewpoints to myself. I really want to get you guys' opinions, as always, involved tonight. As we can see before. You can get comments up on the screen like this from Steph, who says, I'm still giving it another 3 or 4 games. So we're going to get your comments up on the screen tonight. Don't worry about that. So get your opinions in the live chat, as always. Smash a like on the video as well. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. But I titled this one tonight, Ollie Must Learn. And I know that's frustrated a lot of people, because a lot of people's reaction to it is that things like this have happened before and he hasn't learned. And I think that's a valid criticism. I do think that's a valid criticism. I think the strength of any manager is that, losses happen and bad results happen, but it's your ability to, in the game, react to them. And it's your ability to, even if you don't react to them in the game, being like, right, that isn't going to happen again. And one could argue that both of those things Ollie hasn't done well enough. And I think that's valid. I do think that's a valid criticism of Ollie. The reason why I say my opinions really haven't changed so much from last night is because I saw a lot of reactionary feelings towards last night, whereby people were saying, like, oh, he's got to go, we got to get rid of him tomorrow. And it's kind of a case of, let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic here. Even if you're the most staunch Ollie outer, you must realise he's not going to get sacked tomorrow or today. That's not going to happen. The guy signed a 3-year contract in the summer. Something's going to have to go really, really wrong for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to leave Manchester United right now. So let's just sweep that off the table. Let's actually be, let's delve into it, and let's be realistic. Let's be a bit pragmatic and see, okay, what went right and what went wrong. Obviously, not a lot of things went right because we lost the game last night. I still do think there is a point of, and I think these people that are really against Ollie are just not looking into that there were individual errors last night, that they are facts. That's not the whole reason we lost, because absolutely, he needed to react better to what happened in that game, and the substitutions that he made. Ultimately, whilst I could kind of, in certain substitutions, I could see what he was trying to do, or the thought process, shall we say. Obviously, it didn't work, and they weren't the right subs because we lost the game. That's what, as a manager, you're going to be judged on. So I think there's stuff to get into there. But like I said before, I want to get you guys' opinions on. Obviously, we'll get them up on the screen. So when it says Ollie must learn, there's a lot of people have had their thoughts, and rightfully so, on what happened last night. I was looking through the stats as well, the match stats, and it is quite damning. It is quite damning when you look at the stats from last night. I mean, look, let's face it. Yes, we did go down to 10 men in the 35th minute of Aaron Wan-Bissaka's tackle. That's an individual error. And yes, the last minute goal from Jesse Lingard, giving them the ball, essentially, that's obviously an individual error as well. We can't accommodate for that, and we can't argue that. The stats, when you look at them, are damning. They are absolutely damning, in the sense that when you look at, we had 2 shots and 2 on target. That isn't good enough. That isn't good enough, and I think that is fair. I do think, like I said before, the issue is when it comes to last night as well, is that I've seen a lot of people say that he shouldn't have essentially parked the bus. He switched to the back 3, back 5, and it didn't work, and it didn't work because we essentially. When you park them, you can park the bus and you can go down that route. You can go down that route, but the issue is that if you don't win the game, and you lose the game, people are going to say, well, you should have just attacked because we lost anyway. And the fact is we lost the game, and that is a problem. Now, as I mentioned, people have been having their opinions, talking about what happened last night, what went well, what didn't go well. Rio Ferdinand has said that it's D-Day for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United this season after that loss to Young Boys last night. This is what he said on BT Sport after the game, which I think is quite interesting. He said, quote, "I think he's done what he's been asked to do up to this point. Now it's D-Day. It's his squad, shaped by him. You've got the players. Had a wonderful transfer window just gone, bringing in winners and people who can change the culture of the football club. Now, I think he'll get judged properly. The remit now, before it was to improve and to get this team to a point where they can contend, now you've got to convert that into trophies. And if he doesn't, his head will be on the chopping block like any other manager." Which again, I think that's fair. Again, my issue was last night wasn't that he necessarily made bad decisions or bad substitutions, because I think that's right. I really do think that's right. I think the issue that I had last night was with the people that are like, he's got to go after we lost this game, because I think if we're a bit, if we take a step back here and we look at this one, we would say, well, there is a potential that we could win the rest of our group games and we top the group, and then last night's game doesn't matter. I think that the reason why people are so upset about last night, is that possibly, if we had a better coach at Manchester United, a better manager at Manchester United, we would have probably won that game, even though we were down to 10 men. And I think that's kind of the situation. I mean, I might be wrong on that one. You can let me know in the live chat. Is that kind of the viewpoint that people are coming from? Because look, let's make no mistake here. I said this last night as well. There is no doubt in my mind that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not the best coach in the Premier League, and he's not the best manager in the Premier League. They are facts. There are better coaches out there. There are better managers out there, and if we did have a Conte, if we did have a Zidane. Those are the names people like to bring up, right? Conte and Zidane. If we had those names, would we win that game last night? You would probably think so. You would probably think so. And then people will say, well, if that's the case, why don't we bring those guys in? And again, my counterpoint with that to be not necessarily that I agree with it, but my counterpoint to that would be that, again, has there really been justification from the Manchester United board to say, right, he's got to go, we've got to sack him? No, the answer is no. And I think we have to be realistic here as well, that he's not going to get sacked tomorrow. He's not going to get, even if we lose our next Champions League game, he's not going to get sacked. He just isn't. Now, as I mentioned before, if we get to the end of the group stage, if we get to, when's that, December? If we get to December and it's a situation whereby we don't get out of the group, then absolutely there is a massive conversation there to be had, and he will be under serious pressure. But as of right now, we do have to be a bit realistic about these things. And but I can see, genuinely I can see both sides of it, of people being like, we saw this against Villarreal last in the summer in the Europa League final, all that kind of stuff. That's the frustration I think people will have, that they've seen these things before. So what do you guys say? I can see a lot of people that are rather upset. This is a good point. But I just say that Atheon are saying, do you see Pep or Klopp being dominated like that at Young Boys? It's a good point that I think some people have brought up. It was going to be my next point I went on to, because Paul Merson, who has not been particularly glowing of Manchester United over the course of the last month or so, talking about Ronaldo, etc., he was obviously going in after the game because he feels vindicated, because he's been criticising Manchester United, of course, so of course he's going to be going in. And he said, quote, "If that was Manchester City with 10 men, Young Boys would have not touched the ball." And in fairness, I have criticised Paul Merson, but he's probably not wrong there. Realistically, if Chelsea go 1-0 up at Young Boys and then they get a player sent off, they probably win. If Manchester City go 1-0 up at Young Boys and they go down to 10 men, they probably win. If Liverpool go 1-0 up or go down to 10 men, they probably win. I think that's the frustration there as well. I do agree with people there that obviously what Solskjaer tried to do last night didn't work because we lost, and it wasn't. And like I said before, when you park the bus, you really do put yourself into a corner because you have to come out victorious or with something, or at least something. Because if you don't, you look like an idiot. And that's kind of like what Solskjaer looks like right now. And I think that's the frustrating thing. And had this been under Sir Alex or anything like that, we would have carried on attacking. We would have been screw it with Manchester United. Let's still try and go after the game, or at least been pragmatic in a sense of, let's be a bit more defensive, but let's still try and counter. We didn't even see that. We didn't even see that. I think that's the frustrating thing. But at the end of the day as well, I think this is worth pointing out too, that this is the same stadium that Juventus lost to whenever Young Boys were last in the Champions League, which was when we played them 3 years ago, when that was a Ronaldo team. Ronaldo played there for Juventus. They lost against Young Boys as well. It's not out of the realm of possibility that big clubs go there and they lose. So I think we have to, we can't overlook as well the atmosphere that was in that stadium last night. The atmosphere was electric. And once again, we didn't manage the game well enough from a tactical point of view, from the coach and the management team, but also from the players. The players didn't manage the game well either. And, whilst I think Ollie obviously has to shelve some of the blame, he's the coach, he's the manager. Every time Manchester United lose, he will get criticised. Every time Manchester United win, this is the weird thing, every time Manchester United win, it's the players. It certainly isn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because he gets lucky, right? So that's the situation. These things when it comes to Conte, down, when you have big managers that are available as well, when we don't play well or we have situations like last night's, people are going to be like, see, there's this guy available, maybe we should get him in. Again, that's not going to happen unless something catastrophic happens at the club, in the sense of we're like 8th and we go out of the group stage and we finish bottom in a group that we should be winning. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. So, and there were individual errors. There were individual errors that, in my opinion, Solskjaer couldn't do anything about. And that's my kind of thought on the situation, is that there were things last night that just didn't go his way. His really didn't go his way. Now, speaking of those substitutions, because I think it's the substitutions that really drew people's ire. I think it was the tactical change at halftime, because when the red card first happened, of course, you get Sancho comes off, who wasn't having a good game anyway, but Sancho comes off and Dalot comes on, and we go to a 4-1-1 for the last 15 minutes of the half. And while we did look edgy, we still did look like we had some kind of potential. It did look like we had still some kind of potential. We could still go forward and nick a goal. And I think the frustration from a lot of people is that once we switched to that 5 at half-time, we just didn't look like we had any outlet whatsoever. And the midfield did get completely overrun. And again, I think that's going to be people's frustration, because whilst, in my opinion, I can see why he tried it. I can see his thought process. It wasn't working, and he didn't react to that either. That was a problem. That certainly was a problem. So we didn't react to that either. And then it's the 2 substitutions of bringing on Jesse Lingard, and it of course doesn't help that Lingard gives the ball away in the last minute, but bringing on Lingard for Ronaldo and bringing on Matic for Bruno, that's the one that again drew the ire of the fans. That's the one that drew the eyes of the fans, because I think, in retrospect, you can do one of those, right? You can do one of those. I think the Ronaldo one was the one that people were like, what? I do think that's the one that people like the Ronaldo one were a bit like, what? Again, I can understand the thought process. I don't see why you wouldn't put a Mason Greenwood on, or even like an Anthony Martial on for Ronaldo at that point. If your idea is that we need a striker that's got legs, I don't know why Jesse Lingard is that option, unless he's thinking, we can drop back in. That's the thing that I don't understand. It was the player of Lingard coming on specifically that I didn't understand that one. The Matic for Bruno one, you could argue that Bruno can have a bit of magic, but I could understand that point of, because Fred was getting super overrun in the midfield, and arguably Fred actually did all right last night, which again goes to show just how off it we were completely. So I could understand that one, but again, it's those substitutions. And then the weird one was the 89th minute when he brought on Martial for Fred. that obviously, in retrospect, was just clear. I want to waste time because I'm trying to get a point. But especially when you then lose the game, it looks just silly. It looks really, really silly. And, when you do look at them like that, it doesn't look great. It really doesn't look great. Paul Scholes was talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the substitutions last night. This is what he said after the game, quote, "I do think Ole missed a bit of a trick and United couldn't get out their own half. I totally agree. I totally agree on that. And that was the point I was trying to make with that one, was that, I can understand him switching to the back five, but we were just so overrun and there was no outlet whatsoever. And we were so deep in our half, and we didn't need to be that deep for 45 minutes. We didn't. Get to like 65 minutes, 70 minutes, it's still 1-1. You probably say, look, just take the point at that point. Then you can start going a little bit deep. 45 minutes straight from halftime, that's the problem. That was the problem there. And again, a good manager would realize, I tried that, it didn't work out, I should react, and he didn't. He didn't react to that. He didn't react to that one. He also said, quote, "I thought he needed to bring on a bit of pace earlier, like Martial or Greenwood." That's what I said, Paul. That's what I said, Paul. He didn't do that, and ultimately, United paid the ultimate price. And I think, and again, that's the point, is that whilst I can understand the changes he was trying to make, the execution of it just didn't work out. Just really didn't work out. Now, again, the people that are saying, he needs to go tomorrow, he needs to go. Let's be realistic here. Even if you're the most staunch Ole outer, you would realize that he's not going to get sacked in the foreseeable future, certainly. Arguably, maybe by if things were to again go catastrophically wrong. That's a tough word to say. Catastrophically wrong. Then maybe you could see something like Christmas or whatever. But let's be honest here. The guy just signed a new 3-year contract. We are top of the league for what it's worth in the Premier League. I know it's only been a couple of games, but we are top of the league. And he will point to that. And people that defend Ole or like Ole will point to that. That's the situation. That is the situation there. I think that when it comes to the red card, I pointed this out last night. I do think that a bigger conversation should be held about Aaron Wan-Bissaka's technical ability. I think his technical ability is at this point is off, really off for me. I have no doubts that he is a great defender. I think he's a very good defender. I think obviously his tackling's great. His athleticism and agility is very good. But we do need to talk about Aaron Wan-Bissaka of, he does give the ball away a lot, and his first touch isn't that great going forward, getting crosses into the box. That's an issue for him. Ultimately, he got sent off last night, not because he's a bad tackler of the ball. He got sent off last night because technically he made a mistake and his first touch wasn't good enough, and that is a regular problem with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. That's ultimately a problem with him, and that's something he needs to address. That's why me and Flex and other people on the channel here said in the summer, if we had signed Kieran Trippier, I think he would have played far more games than people thought, because Ollie would see a situation like last night and go, Kieran Trippier ain't getting sent off. He wouldn't have got sent off. Super chat from David T. I'll move that up a little bit. I always get this wrong. Before, because I have to adjust it before every show. There you go. Super chat from David T, and I can't even see it because it's cut off. Says, love the show. Also for the fans who are desperate, Conte has 12 wins, 11 draws, and 11 Champions Leagues outs in his entire career. Let's be careful. I think when it comes to because people were saying that about the amount of losses that Ole Solskjaer has in the Champions League, which again, it's in the record book, so you can't really dispute it. I think that you do overlook a certain amount of context in that situation of teams that we have faced. But it's fair. You can't hide from statistics. They can be manipulated, though. That is certainly something that needs to be considered as well. There was something talked about as well that I did want to talk about. I do want to keep this relatively short tonight because, of course, there are Champions League games on. You don't want to listen to me rattle on for hours and hours and hours. Cristiano Ronaldo. That's why I put him in the thumbnail. That's why you can see him right there. Cristiano Ronaldo was on the touchline last night. And Rio Ferdinand had spoken about that in his post-match coverage on BT Sport last night, which I think is interesting too. Now, in the second half of the match, shortly after Ronaldo was substituted for Jesse Lingard, Ronaldo was pictured making gestures towards the Manchester United players on the field alongside the manager, of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and teammate Bruno Fernandes. it was scenes like that brought a discussion about, should Ronaldo be doing that? Is that disrespectful? Rio Ferdinand said, quote, if I'm the manager, I've got to be honest, I'm telling him to sit down. I think I do agree with Rio there. I really do agree with Rio there. And look, I really understand that it's Cristiano Ronaldo, because this is what he said. He said, quote, but he is Cristiano, we'll let him do it. And he said, look, I get it, with Cristiano, people go, oh, it's bravado, it's for the fans. He's just a passionate guy. He wants to win. He's desperate to win, and he can't hold it in. If that means he has to go up there and stand next to the manager, shouting instructions, etc., so be it. When it's someone of his standing and stature in the game, how can you argue with it? Make no mistake, there's probably no other player that can get away with that than Cristiano Ronaldo, right? There's no other player that can get away with doing that. But even if I was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and again, this is almost the problem. Like, there's problems with having Cristiano Ronaldo on your side, but it's almost one of the problems with having Cristiano Ronaldo, isn't it? Is that, like, it's difficult to say, look, sit down, I know what I'm talking about, because the moment Ronaldo goes, no, you don't, you're stupid, or you're a terrible coach or whatever, you're done. You're done. And arguably, this is probably the problem. Arguably, some of those players in that side, and probably a lot of fans, probably prefer Ronaldo's opinion or Cristiano Ronaldo's tactical thoughts than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You know what I mean? Or they prefer his game plan to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And that's sometimes the problem when you have someone just of that stature. Because Ronaldo did it at when they won the European Championships, right, Portugal. You remember that final? Because he went off after, what was it, like 20 minutes, 25 minutes or whatever? And for the rest of the game, he's on the touchline. The manager's there shouting stuff, but it's Ronaldo on the touchline going, get up, move over here, go, blah, blah, blah. And everyone was like, oh, it's so disrespectful. But at the end of the day, they won the match and they won the trophy. So who gives a shit? But that was, it was kind of a bit like last night. And I think some people are saying that it's, it could be a situation whereby has Ronaldo just kind of realized truly the situation that he's now in? Has Ronaldo just kind of realized, oh, wow, this is actually going to be a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be, or, oh, this is kind of the deck of cards that I'm dealing with right now. And that's a possibility as well. That is really a possibility. Santiago puts a good point here. Says, do you think Ole could lose the locker room to Ronaldo? I think he does have to be careful. I do think he has to be careful. Look, let's face, like I just said, I think there's probably certainly a portion of that locker room that if Cristiano Ronaldo one day turns around and goes, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or he's not up to snuff, or he's just not good enough to be the coach, then that locker room can switch like that. I mean, it can switch like that. That locker room has switched on people before. It turned on Jose Mourinho. Arguably, it turned on Louis van Gaal as well. It certainly turned on David Moyes. And when you've got an influential figure like Cristiano Ronaldo, the moment that he goes, this guy doesn't know what he's on about, it's over. I mean, it could be that quick. It could be that quick because he holds that kind of influence. He really does. Now, again, you could argue that maybe that's why you need a manager with just a huge stature in the game and the ability to manage big players, or someone that Ronaldo himself ultimately respects, because otherwise he's going to be on the touchline and stuff like that. Like, I don't recall. Do you remember Cristiano Ronaldo being on the touchline doing that under Zidane? He might have. I think I remember seeing like Ramos maybe doing something like that for Real Madrid or whatever. I don't know. But again, it's certainly a situation. It really is an interesting situation. I think it is something that that Ole will have to try and manage that. He'll have to try and manage that because I think Ronaldo does ultimately respect Ole because they played together in the past. But make no mistake, Cristiano Ronaldo is a winner. Cristiano Ronaldo, all he cares about is winning. You saw it last night. He was furious. He was furious after that game. Getting up off the touchline, and he was not happy because he didn't want to lose. He doesn't want to be in a side that loses to young boys, especially when it happened a few years ago to him in that very stadium with Juventus. He doesn't want that to happen. So he'll be judging Ole as well. It's not just the fans. The players will know that have been there a while whether or not they rate Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a coach or a manager or not. Cristiano Ronaldo is having his own bit of judgment right now, isn't he? Going, okay, I'll give this guy the benefit of the doubt. I'll see what this guy can do. But if I make my mind up in a couple of weeks and go, actually, you know what? This guy isn't up to snuff. The moment he starts saying that, it's over. It really could be over. It could be over for Ole, certainly, because especially given the investment that the Glazers have put in to Cristiano Ronaldo, even at this stage in Ronaldo's career, even though the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been given a 3-year contract, if it came to a point where Cristiano Ronaldo knocked on Ed Woodward's door and went, it's either me or him, but then Ole's in trouble. Then Ole's in massive trouble. So, again, that's something that he'll have to manage. He'll have to manage. And whilst, again, the Ronaldo substitution, I could understand Ole's thinking. I really couldn't understand why he brought Lingard on. But I can understand Ole's thinking. He's got to manage that. He would really have to manage that. And that's going to be certainly something interesting. Aaron Walker says CR7 player manager. It is an interesting point. It is an interesting point. I do agree with Rio Ferdinand. If I was the manager, I'd be like, mate, please sit down. Like, what the hell? Like, I understand your passion to win, but come on. But again, with people like, when you have people like Ronaldo and Varane at the club as well, who worked under Zidane so successfully, you'll have those people. You will have those people already that'll be saying, look, you've got Ronaldo, you've got Varane. And in the same vein that you had, Bruno FaceTiming Cristiano Ronaldo, come to Manchester United. Who's to say that Cristiano Ronaldo and Rafael Varane don't start dropping Zidane a bit of a message on the WhatsApp going, come to Manchester, come on, it's chaos here. But like I said earlier on, ultimately, and I know this isn't the line people want to hear, it is just one game. And people go, no, it's not, because we lost against Villarreal and all that kind of stuff. I mean, in the sense of this season in the Champions League, we are still top of the league, and I still do expect us to go through the group. Now, once again, if we then have, say, an easy draw and then the knockout stage, and we bottle that, then again, Ole will be judged this season. That's the thing. Ole will absolutely be judged this season. I have no doubts about that. This, and like Rio Ferdinand said, it's D-Day for him. This is the season. He has to do something. He has to do something. Because if there isn't any sense of improvement of, maybe, again, trophies or being really close, then it will be a problem. Then it will be a problem. Make no mistake, Ole, he is running out of excuses. Previously, it would just be a case of, well, we're just looking to have a little bit of improvement and stability in the league. Previously, it would have been this, it would have been this, it would have been this. Now, he has got the players that he wants. Not all of them. He doesn't have that defense midfielder. But now, those situations whereby, he doesn't really have those excuses anymore. And he will be judged. He will be judged. Even though he got that 3-year contract in the summer, Jose Mourinho got a new contract, and then he got sacked the following season as well. So, and there are ties to Zidane in Manchester United now with Ronaldo and Varane, etc. So, he will get judged this season, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. There's no doubt about that. A couple of other things I did want to talk about. I saw Luke Shaw do an interview after the game yesterday, and he was talking about the pitch. He was saying, quotes, it's artificial grass, not proper grass. You can't turn properly. It's not good for the knees. But like I said, it's no excuse. We gave everything, but we come out short. And like I said, we need to focus on the next game. So these quotes that he was saying, he was another one that he said, no excuses. We lost the game tonight. You can't blame the pitch. But for Champions League, these pitches, they shouldn't be possible. It's dangerous. It's hard to turn on. But like I said, it's no excuse. So he said those things, and a lot of people went, he's making up excuses. He's saying that they lost the game because of the pitch, when he just said, it's no excuse, we lost. I'm not a fan of the pitch. It's difficult to turn on. But he did ultimately say, we didn't lose because of the pitch. The pitch isn't an excuse. The people going, he's saying it's a pitch. He's saying it's the pitch. I don't think he was saying that, they lost the game because of the pitch. I also don't think he's going to come out and say, we lost the game because the manager made bad substitutions. And our right back stood on someone's foot, and then Jesse Lingard passed the ball to him and won them the game. He's not going to say that, obviously. But those are the situations. And I think, like I said, the game at the weekend is going to be really important now. Not that it wasn't anyway, but the game at the weekend is going to be really important, because if we go to the London Stadium and completely, poo the bed and we lose like 3-0 or whatever, then it will be pressure on. Then it will be a lot of pressure on. A lot of pressure on. Because people will say, well, that was a bad performance in the week, and then you lose to West Ham. This is a really critical point for Ole, because it's all momentum, isn't it? It's all momentum. And this momentum could be starting to turn the other way. Nicky Bernard says, I said from the start, Ronaldo will get Ole fired, which is interesting. Like I said before, I really do think that Ronaldo dynamic is going to be something Ole has to manage. He really has to manage, because, again, the moment that Cristiano Ronaldo turns around and says to either Ole or says to the dressing room that this guy can't cut it or this guy's not up to stuff, then he's done. I mean, he really, really is done, and that's a massive problem. That's a massive problem. Adit, I'm almost terrible with these pronunciations. Adit Miternan? No, this is rubbish. It's terrible pronunciation. Says, pressure is already on, mate. Yeah, I mean, pressure's on me to get the name right, and I can't even do that. So, but yeah, the pressure is on Ollie. Of course it is. Of course it is. Again, last night was one game. And I've seen, when I've said that, I've gone, it is one net game. And people go, it's 4 games. It's 4 games. There have been 4 games this season. When I'm talking about the Champions League, there was 1 game last night. And again, we are top of the league. But I mean, again, like we've spoken about this before here on the channel, haven't we? Like, do I think Manchester United are going to win the league this season? No. I said I don't think so. I think that we have the squad to challenge. Do we have the squad to win it? I don't know. Do we have the coach to win it? Maybe not. Maybe not. And maybe that is the problem. I think ultimately what's happened, and I've said about this before, that the standards obviously at Manchester United have dropped. Of course they've dropped. And the reason, it's obvious that they've dropped is because when we had Sir Alex Ferguson, we won the league every season, and when we didn't, I mean, I remember when Sir Alex came like 3rd one season, people lost their minds. People went crazy because Manchester United came 3rd. Nowadays, because of the turmoil that there's been post Sir Alex, just a couple of seasons in a row where we actually have finished in the top 4 positions, we're happy because we just haven't had that continuity. But I do think that standards are rising now at the club in the sense that because you sign people like Ronaldo, like Sancho, like Varane, especially people like Ronaldo and Varane that are born winners, they're not going to settle for being just top 4. They're not going to settle for being like, well, we got out of the group stage in the Champions League and that's it. And again, that might be Ollie's downfall this season. Again, make no mistake, Ollie doesn't have many excuses this year. If we're miles off it in terms of the Champions League, like we don't make it through the group stage, or we're miles off it in terms of the Premier League, by the end of the season, we're not like 6-9 points away from the title, or just again closer, or something like that, then you can't say, well, we didn't get that defensive midfielder in the summer. Sorry, we would have been closer, but we didn't get that defensive midfielder. It really is this season or kind of nothing for Ollie. He has to show something. And I know people will say, but he hasn't. He hasn't. People, he hasn't shown anything. Again, I would say, and I know, again, people don't like this. I know people, but we have to wait and see because he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's not. Again, unless something really dramatically bad happens, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But he must learn. He must learn from last night. And again, I think the people's frustration is that this has happened before and he hasn't. That would be the frustration. And I think that's a valid point. I do think that's a really valid point. Santiago says, Champions League is a worry now. We have never won versus Villarreal. Well, we're going to have to start, aren't we? We're going to have to start because, fortunately, we almost got away with it last night as well. Because, of course, if you didn't see, Atalanta and Villarreal drew. It was 2-2, wasn't it? It was 2-2 in the end. It was actually a quite good game. I saw the highlights this morning. But we kind of got away with it because that obviously everyone dropped points apart from Young Boys. And the Young Boys aren't going to qualify out the group. Again, the frustrating thing would be that if we did get that point, then you'd have been like, okay, everyone's on an even playing field. We'll go again. It's just like starting from scratch. But it is what it is. It's happened. So... And look, I saw the tweet from the Twitter account, the United View TV Twitter account. Be sure to give us a follow, by the way. We're nearly at like 11,000 followers, which is amazing. So be sure to follow us, United View TV, on Twitter. This morning was like, how are we feeling? And it was funny because there was a lot of responses, and it was kind of the thought of like, how are you feeling after 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever? And people were like, still pissed off, still unhappy, still annoyed. I think that the kind of anger has kind of switched to disappointment of being like, it's the hope that gets you, isn't it? It's the hope that gets you. But I think people thought that, we thought this year would be different. It still could be. And I know you might say, and you're being a delusional optimist. And maybe I am. Maybe I am being a delusional optimist. But my response to anything like this would be, we'll wait and see when it comes out of the group stage. If we don't get through the group, then I will be with you. I will be with you and saying that is not good enough. And there'll be massive questions to be asked. Ruben says, love Ollie as a club legend, but he's his worst enemy as a manager. I think that's something interesting because we'll wrap it up here because I said we won't go too long tonight. do you think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's sort of tenure as a manager so far, do you think that's tainted his sort of status with the club as like a legend? Because he is a legend. If say, for instance, we're talking about big hypotheticals at this point, but if it were to go completely wrong this season and we don't get through that Champions League group that we should get into, and we drop really off it in the league, which again I don't see that. I don't see that happening. But if that does happen, does that taint his legacy? Does that taint his legacy at Manchester United? Because it's what people will think about. It is what people certainly will think about. I don't think, put it this way, at this point, I don't think people really care that he's a club legend anymore. You know, certainly the people that don't like him, certainly the people that aren't fans of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could give two shits that he is a legend at this point. You know, at this point, he's the Manchester United manager and he's being judged on the results. Last night wasn't a good result, and it wasn't good enough from a lot of people, Ole included, and a lot of people got it wrong last night. Again, it's worth pointing out that if that red card doesn't happen, we were cruising at that point. But again, we're living in complete hypotheticals at that point, and that's the situation. Raz says, we need to play well against West Ham. Otherwise, there's going to be even more doubt from the fans and from players like Bruno and Ronaldo. And again, I think that's fair. I think that if there isn't a reaction on Sunday against West Ham, if we do lose and we play poorly, you will start to hear those doubts. And, you know, you will start to see Ronaldo throwing his hands up in the air again. You'll see Ronaldo, you know, putting on the boo-boo face and not being happy. And you'll see Bruno Fernandes being unhappy. Because there's no doubt that when Ronaldo was being convinced to come back to Old Trafford and Bruno Fernandes was talking to him, there's no doubt that he was asked, you know, what's going on with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? He's a good coach. I've heard some things, blah, 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 blah. It would be fascinating to see what Bruno Fernandes said to Cristiano Ronaldo at the time. It really, really would. It really would be interesting to see what he said to Ole at the time, because that's interesting. But look, guys, I think we'll probably wrap it up there. Like I said, we'll keep it a short one tonight because there's Champions League on. I think the games are going to kick off in a few minutes or so. But if you are watching this after we were live, be sure to leave a comment below. Let us know how you're feeling 24 hours on after last night's just... I mean, if you've seen the clip of Flex, that is the best thing. that is the only... I mean, it's still so frustrating, but the clip is of, like, KG and Flex are doing the match view, and... You know, KG's like, Flex is going, oh, don't worry, it's over. We get a point, we move on. And KG goes, it's not over though. He goes, yeah, it is, it's over, don't worry about it. And then they go and score. And it's just like, curse of the commentator. Curse of the commentator, so bad. But like I said, if you're watching this on demand afterwards, after we were live, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the video and be sure to subscribe to United View, bottom right-hand corner. I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Peace.